Do you ever feel like you can't tell anyone what's going on in your relationship because you feel like you're the guilty one? Because you feel like you're the violent one within the relationship? Yeah. So, what I want to discuss today is there are different forms of violence. Some are very dangerous. Well, all violence can be very dangerous. But it's about distinguishing whether the violence is in correlation with the power and control dynamic. Now, if you look at Michael P. Johnson's work, he actually distinguishes four different types of violence within kind of intimate partner or domestic violence, or however you want to kind of put it, within, well, couple relationship dynamics where there can be violence. Now, I'm only going to talk about the first two because I think the first two are very relevant for domestic violence victims and also for perpetrators. So, what I want to say is there's the first one is basically intimate terrorism. And that is what any person that even thinks about domestic violence would put everybody into that box of intimate terrorism. So this is kind of the batterings that you see women go through, the really horrific beatings. And what this form of violence is all about is long-term power and control. Like abusers, any form of abuse, whether it be tech, whether it be sexual, whether it be psychological, emotional, like all of these economical, all of these forms of abuses are all about power and control. Now, if you've watched any of my earlier videos, you'll know that because I've spoken about that. But this is where the violence is different. Now, as an abused woman myself, there were situations where I fought back. I fought back to A, defend myself, and B, because I was angry. I'd had enough. I'd been worn down so much that I just had enough, and I just wanted him to see that I was angry because I was never allowed to actually be angry. And if you've been in an abusive relationship, you'll know that we're not allowed to have any feelings. We're not allowed to have any opinions. So my point here is I lashed out, you know, I would defend myself. And also there will be points where I threw stuff at him. I remember throwing some of my teddies at him, just enraged. Like I knew it wasn't going to hurt him, but just enraged, just because I was never allowed to feel anything. I wasn't allowed to be who I wanted to be around him. And just for all of his mind games and bullshit that he used to do. So I would often think, because then he would go ballistic and be like, see, you're the crazy one, you're the violent one in the relationship. And then I would believe these mind games and think, oh my God, it's me. I threw something at him. I threw the teddy at him. It's me. I'm the bad person. Because that's what I was fed to believe. That's what I was brainwashed to believe. So what I want to talk about is intimate terrorism is when it's all about long-term power and control. That is when, even though there might be just a shove, a grab, a kick, a push, whatever, it's a slap, just minor things, the ultimate thing is the person wants long-term control and power over the individual, over their partner. Whereas what I would call violence resistance, or what Michael P. Johnson refers to as violent resistance, is when there's no need, there's no want or desire for power and control. It's just literally just a reaction back. So the person is violent, but without the power and control. So what I would say is an abusive man within a relationship would be the intimate terrorist, obviously with the long-term power and control, doing this violence just to intimidate, just to frighten, just to keep the victim where he wants her to be. And then violence resistance being where the woman is literally just retaliating and with no need or no desire to want the power and control. So that's kind of how those two situations work. So what will happen is when these situations escalate, police or authorities are called and it goes to courts at a later date when, you know, when the abused woman finally gets the strength to leave, the courts will look at the violence and actually say, well, the woman was violent or the woman was this. And in some cases, and in a lot of cases, the woman actually ends up going to prison, being incarcerated or imprisoned because of her actions in self-defense or in retaliation, when actually she had no desire to control her partner, but it was the abusive man who was pulling the strings all along. And sometimes they do actually want the retaliation. Sometimes they do want that reaction, because then they have an opportunity to blame everything, because obviously they're always going to blame. They're always going to try and shame the individual and play the mind games and gaslight her. So she will always feel like it's her fault. But if they can get an opportunity where the female reacts, boom, the abuser gets exactly what he wants. He gets exactly what he wants, because then he can be like, see what you did? This is all your fault. And then because you know you did that thing, you know you threw that teddy, you know you threw the shoe or the book or whatever it is that you threw in reaction, in retaliation, you then think, oh my God, yes, I did do that. Yes, it is all my fault. So that's what I wanted to cover off today. And I just want to make it clear that it is by no means your fault, absolutely not your fault at all, for retaliating, because I have been there where you just feel suffocated, where you just feel like you're not allowed to express any opinions. I remember, I'm actually thankful to my abuser, because my ex-husband, because he taught me how to manage my anger. So now I can be in a state where I am raging, like literally raging. And well, I actually haven't been raging since I left him, but he would make me so enraged inside, and I would just be able to sit there quietly, because I was never allowed to be angry. And I'm sure if you've gone through any of this, or you've been through an abusive relationship, I am sure you can relate to that. So I just wanted to get this out there, talk about the different forms of violence, and how when there's power and control involved, it's a whole different thing. It is a whole different thing. The violence is just a part of how much they want that control over their victim, and their intimidation tactics and the mind games and all the other different forms of abuse that come into play is all about the power and control. So I just wanted to get that out there, just to help educate, just to help if you are an abused woman or you're a survivor of domestic violence, just to make you feel slightly better that it wasn't your fault, because it never is, by the way. So hopefully that helps. And if you would like more information, please contact me on my Instagram page at Connecting Women Together with the number 2. I'll pop it in the description below. Please like this video if you do like it. Please share, please subscribe, and I look forward to you tuning into the next video next week. And keep smiling at the person in the mirror, because you are beautiful.